Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Spirit and Soul podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Cohen, and today we have a very special guest. We have Erica Rose with us, and Erica is one of our incredible teachers here at Spirit and Soul. This is now your second or third podcast.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, it might be my third.
I think
podcast.
It might be your third.
Yeah.
So this is Erica's third time on the podcast. And obviously, especially if you come into Spirit and Soul, you know how much magic that Erica brings. She is just pure light, pure magic. And today we are talking all about romanticizing your life, which Erica does so well, and it really lends to manifesting, right?
It does, because manifesting is all about being in that vibration of already being there, already living your best life. And the higher vibe you feel, the more likely you are to attract those high vibe dreams. So that's why I feel like when you romanticize your life, you are already becoming a magnet to attracting those dreams, those desires. You're stepping into it now.
I love it. I love it. All right, so Erica, why don't you start out by just telling everybody a little bit about you, how you got into all the things that you do, and maybe some of the things that you've manifested.
Oh, yeah. Done a lot of cool things.
Yes, she has.
So I'm Erica. I am one of the teachers here, obviously, which I love. This is my favorite job I've ever had. And I got started on this path a long time ago. In 2007, I went to a friend's 16th birthday party where her grandma and mom were psychics, and they gave us angel card readings. They taught us about pendulums, but the coolest part was at the end, they taught us that they weren't born with these abilities. They developed it over time, and it grew. And I, as somebody who I always wanted to be psychic, I loved Harry Potter with the magic. I loved That's So Raven, where she was psychic. I wanted to be her. And so learning that I could actually have these magical powers, so to speak, in my life, that was it. I went full in. I read all the books I could. Me and my friend would practice reading cards to each other now that we learned from professionals. I took all intuition development classes. So yeah, and I just noticed that the more and more I meditated, the more I practiced, the more I learned and got into it, I really ignited my own intuition. And I also kind of realized, reflecting upon it, that it was always there, but it just took training to bring it out. I always say intuition is really like developing any muscles. I think of a six-pack. I'd say this a lot. Technically, everybody could have a six-pack. It's just a matter of training and doing the work to bring it out. So intuition, we all have it. We just actually have to put in the effort to bring it out.
I love that. So you need to develop your intuitive six-pack. I'm here for this right now.
Yeah, and in terms of manifesting, so that came a couple years later. I think in 2010, one of my friends told me about the book The Secret, where most people start, and I read it and I was like, oh man, this is it. So then I played around with different things. Because I lived in the city at the time when I discovered it, I would always try to use it to meet certain celebrities. We met Daniel Radcliffe. You'll appreciate that. Yeah. That was awesome. We accidentally walked on a film set that Bradley Cooper was walking by, so that was cool. But I think some of my favorite manifestations came later in life. Most recently, obviously, I talk about this all the time.
As you should.
Winning a Wheel of Fortune. So last year, around this time actually, so in January, I got serious about I wanted to manifest money. I set my intention. I wanted $20,000. I wrote a check. I waited till the astrology. It was a perfect day where it was a lucky day. I used Frank's money spray. Yes. I got all crystals from Spirit and Soul, green aventurine, pyrite, malachite. I made a little spell jar, and I took any cash I had and I put it in a circle around me, which Gina later pointed out was a wheel.
Oh, I love that.
I put all 20s and singles around me, and I actually wore, this is part of romanticizing your life, I wore my most expensive dress, and I got all dressed up to feel that luxury, to feel that wealth, and I sat in the middle of it, and I meditated, I visualized receiving all of the money, and I really let go of the how, not worrying about when it was going to come, where it was going to come, just knowing it would come. And then a couple weeks later, one of my best friends messaged me saying that Wheel of Fortune put out a post that they were looking for Star Wars fans, which I am one of the biggest Star Wars fans. So I was like, I should apply to it, which I'm actually proud of myself because I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, I'll never get picked. It's not for me. That's cool, but I'm scared. I just instantly was like, no, that sounds fun. I'm going to do it.
Love it.
So I applied, and then it was so quick from then. I sent in a video. Like a day later, they called me. A day after that, I had the audition. Then 3 days later, they told me I was on, and I had to fly to California the next week, where that morning I also visualized trying to manifest myself getting to the bonus round, being excited. And in my episode, I did wind up winning. And I won basically $20,000. So the exact amount I had set the intention for a month earlier. So that was such a that's one of my coolest, powerful manifestations.
Oh my gosh. I love that so much. I love that story. I remember when you were going through it, you're like, this is going to sound weird, but I have a class set for this day. And Wheel of Fortune called me. I'm like, go to Wheel of Fortune. We will reschedule this class.
Yeah, that was one of my intuition development classes. So if you were supposed to go to my intuition development class on 2/22, you will remember that it got canceled, and now you know why. It was because I was on Wheel of Fortune.
Oh my gosh, so funny. So I think a lot of when we think of manifesting and we think of like living a little bit more of a magical life, it's a lot of it is rooted in intention and in really understanding how to live so much more intentionally, but also like these tiny little rituals. And I call them rituals, and they don't have to be like these big drawn out things like drawing big bats. I mean, yes. And so we're going to say yes. And because yes, those things are amazing, but I feel like you see a lot of that online or like on Instagram where it's like these big beautiful baths are drawn and there's candles everywhere and there's like rose petals and oils and stuff in it, and then you hear somebody talking like about affirmations and stuff like that. And while that is so incredible, I think that a lot of that is not really conducive to like a busy lifestyle. So like maybe that's good every once in a while, but every time you want to manifest something, it may be hard for you, which you should be manifesting every day, intentionally every single day. It's going to be hard to draw yourself a bath and do all these things every single day.
Yeah.
So,
I think, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I think that these tips and the things that you're going to talk about with romanticizing your life adds to that and adds a beautiful modern layer to weave in intentionality into your day.
Right. Like I think of my sister, who is a full-time working mom. She has 2 young boys, both under the age of 5. So like she doesn't have the time. She would love to draw a romantic bath and journal for hours, but like someone like her doesn't have the time. I think of even myself when I used to work in my corporate job, and I'm sure you, same thing, used to commute into the city on the train. I was getting up so early. I know you powered through and got up even earlier to journal, but like I couldn't do it. So I had to find ways to add little moments into the routine I was already doing. Like, for example, I would state my affirmations as I was putting on my makeup because I was already doing it. Or I would think about my best life as I was getting dressed. Or instead of sleeping on the train like I wanted to, I would journal then. So things like that. Or even if I had to drive into work, I would listen to an empowering audiobook instead of playing Taylor Swift for the 100th time.
Right. Even though you wanted to.
I do. Some days I would, because I think it's about also just letting yourself go to how you feel. Like some days you're like, you know what, I just need music to hype me up. So then that's okay to break from it.
Absolutely. I think music too. Didn't you have a class on the music and manifesting? I think music is a great part of it. But like you said, there's an importance of weaving in like all of like the affirmations or listening to an empowering book or something like that as you're driving. It's like you have to do both or multiple. Listen to podcasts, anything that's going to hype you up, inspire you, make you learn is going to be an important part of weaving in whatever it is you want to accomplish out of life or bring to life. But I think that Erica does the romanticizing life so well. And again, like what she said, and I want to highlight it. She said, I didn't have the time. I was busy. So she needed to find ways to really lace in what she wanted to accomplish, which was the journaling and like the, affirmations and everything, and the visualizations, like all of that stuff. So what do you think are ways that people could, because we talk a lot about morning rituals and morning routines. What are, like, let's take the morning stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say it's like maybe a little meditation, or maybe it's like a little like, I don't know, like the journaling, all of that. How could somebody maybe weave those things into the day if they're not taking the train or something like that?
Right. Yeah, so I think it's about finding ways that work for you. Like another way, you could do it while you're eating breakfast even. If you have time to sit down, eat breakfast, or drink your tea or coffee. One thing, this is a class I recently just did where you can speak your affirmations into your morning drink. You can talk into it, and then as you're drinking it up, just imagine all of that magic, like a magical elixir potion, just getting infused into your body, like making it your truth. Like when you whisper, like, I am beautiful, I am loved, I am magical, like, and then you sip it, that is getting infused into you. So everybody drinks, so that's something you can do all day long with no matter what you drink. It could be, like we said, tea, but it could just be your water, could be juice, could be green juice, like whatever you want. Just drink that in. That's a really great one. While you're eating, instead of like, thinking about all the things you have to do, just pretend you're in like a fancy restaurant in Paris. Or,
I love that.
Like, even if you're just eating cereal, like sitting at your table, just close your eyes and be like, oh, I'm eating gourmet wheat like cereal or whatever it is, like, gourmet cereal at the top of the Eiffel Tower or something like that. Like your mind is your best tool, so use it. That was another thing. I know we said if you're not using the trains, but when I would take the trains, I would always pretend I was on a train in Europe. Like, I'm, instead of passing, the train yard or the different cities in Long Island, I'm passing the beautiful rolling green hills of Switzerland. Like, I would just make believe. Or even as you're driving, if you're driving somewhere, pretend, I'm on a fun road trip in Ireland. Or, it's all about pretending, playing into that character. I think when I think of life as a whole, in terms of if you believe in reincarnation, we, in a way, because we are choosing to play this role right now, we're all just kind of like actors here. We're playing a part right now. Like you're playing the role of Tiffany Cohen, like I'm playing the role of Erica. So why not continue on that acting and be like, I'm, somewhere exotic. I'm in Bora Bora right now, like, as you're sitting at your desk. Like, just pretend.
I like that. I could actually do that with my ring light because it's so like high with the light in my face. Like I'm on a beach in Maui.
Yeah, I love that.
I want to rewind to a couple of different things. So I want to first talk about the ingesting of the affirmations. So the reason that this works, and I want to put this out there to those that are like a little bit more maybe like scientific minded or like, I don't know how that would work. Here's the deal. Everything is energy. So that's what it comes down to. It's every single thing that we talk about, every single thing that we do, especially that we teach about at Spirit and Soul, it always comes back to energy. So if you can understand that every thought that you have, even if you don't speak the affirmations out loud, but you hold, maybe if there's people around or whatever, but you're holding your cup and maybe like just like intentionally taking the affirmations or taking the thoughts that you're having or the visualizations that you want to have and point them in the direction of the cup, point them in the direction of the food, and just envision them being laced all within it, right? Like infusing into the drink, infusing into the food. What you're doing is you're adding that energy to it. So now not only did you just put that energy into it, you actually created a 3D representation of it. And now down the hatch, right? So now you're ingesting those affirmations into your body or that visualization into your body. And there's something absolutely incredible about that. So this is why we do like ritual teas, because now if you really want to get into it and start understanding what the different frequencies are of the different foods. So let's say like apples are abundant. If you think of cinnamon is very protective, also like a sign of prosperity, right? So if you eat an apple cinnamon Pop-Tart, I don't even know if they have that.
That sounds good though.
If you have like something apple cinnamon, let's
oatmeal.
say. Yeah, oatmeal would be better. don't know why Pop-Tarts came to mind. But if you're having some apple cinnamon something, now you're inviting in prosperity. So if you say like, I am a money magnet. Money flows freely and easily to me. I am prosperous, right? Now you're adding it in, and the apples and the cinnamon, it is holding the vibration of that affirmation so much more tightly. And now it has been infused with your words, and now you're ingesting it and actually creating it throughout your body.
Yeah.
It's incredible when you think about it. Like I want you to think about it, because it's not just we say something and then we eat it, right? It's more than that.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect example of romanticizing your life, because it's not like, oh, I'm just eating a meal. It's like, ooh, I'm eating this magical potion that's gonna make me live my best life.
I love it. It is a potion. It is, like you said, an elixir. I love that.
Me too. Yeah, it's like a magical meal. Like
it is.
It serves a purpose. Like, oh, I'm not just eating. I'm making money.
Yes, I am making money. That sounds like girl math to me.
Yeah, it does.
Like you can spend the money on the apple cinnamon whatever because it's free.
Yeah,
that's a being free.
It's like buying all of like Frank's money making things, like his money candle, his money spell kit, the money spray. It's free.
Yeah, it's free.
Frank Pyrate's free.
I love it. So that is such a great way to really start out your day with something. I mean, you could do that all throughout the day, obviously, but that's like such an incredible way to romanticize the things that you're eating. And I love the idea of like, I'm going to to Paris, not I'm going to work. You know? Like,
I always think that, if you're driving on the LIE, just pretend, like see it in your mind, like, oh, I'm driving on the interstate of Australia through the Australian outback, or, wherever you want.
Yeah, like if that's like, let's say you want to go to Australia, right? Like you want to manifest going to Australia. It's a dream of yours. Every chance that you get, you can be in Australia.
Yeah, I used to, in one of my corporate jobs, I used to look out the window, and at first I would be kind of sad. I'd be like, I'm like stuck at work at this job that I'm not fulfilled in, and I'm like, and somebody is having the best day of their life in Paris. And then, but instead of, feeling that, why not me, like things are sad, I would reframe it, and I'd be like, oh, I'd imagine as I looked out the window, I imagine seeing like the Eiffel Tower. I try to like eat more croissants, like things like that. Get a little macaron.
Yeah.
So then I would pretend as I'm drinking my tea at work, like even though I'm doing work and I'm miserable in that sense, like I'd pretend like, oh, but I'm in Paris. And I think I actually visualized Paris enough times that I think that's how I also manifested one of my other best manifestations, getting engaged in Paris.
See, do you see like all of these things that Erica has been able to do because she has allowed herself to play, which is something else that you said. Like she allowed herself to just be free in that regard and allowed to play. We don't make time for what we think of as play. It's just using your imagination.
Yeah, I do that so often. And I think also it's about just believing that life can be magical. Life is like a fairy tale. Why can't you get the story of your dreams? I think that's very true in love. People think like we have so many limiting beliefs from society about love, that love fades over time, or like the big grand romantic gestures are only in the movies, partners are never perfect, things like that. And I refuse to believe that. I'm like super hopeless romantic. I always chose to believe that. No, my love and love story can be one like the movies. And I always hope for that. And luckily not luckily, I think this is intentionally, because my vibe was on that believing that love can be a romantic fairy tale. And that's why it's no coincidence that I manifested a partner who he also believes that love can be a romantic fairy tale. And I think through all of that, that's why our relationship, we have the cutest story, in my opinion.
It is the cutest story.
We worked together, and then like we slowly became friends, and then like over time we started to become like best friends. Like we became so close, we would talk all the time. We realized like our families had weird connections where like our dads worked in the same place, but they never met each other. Our moms never met, but they both worked at the school. They both worked in the school district. We both had like an older sister, 4 years older, like weird things like that, synchronicities. And So over time, we just eventually started to fall in love, and then it was one of those like, oh no, I'm in love with my best friend. Does he feel the same way? Like nobody wanted to say anything to cross the line. And I remember actually, this is another romanticized thing. The moment when I realized like, oh, I'm in love with Justin. I was ice skating at Bryant Park. I was actually on a first date with somebody else that like one of my friends knew, and it started snowing because it was the Christmas village around. It was so beautiful, so romantic, and I was like, I don't want to be here with this guy. Like I want to be here with Justin. And at the same time, Justin was actually at an airport. No joke. This like, see, I manifested a rom-com. He was literally at an airport coming home from Disney, and he was so worried that I was on a date with somebody else, and he was like, no, like I don't want her. What if she likes this guy? Like I want her to be with me.
Oh my God.
So yeah, so it was like we both were simultaneously realizing like, oh no, we're in love with each other. So that was the romantic part. And then I feel like the rest of our relationship has also been romantic. On our first date, when we finally actually got together, we went to see a Shakespeare play, and it got cut short because it started raining. And then that led us to have a kiss in the rain. Like literally, I'm telling you, it's a rom-com. Like I manifested that because I always believed that that's what I deserve, that life can be that romanticized, that magical. And then we got engaged in Paris. So if you want a love story, believe that you can have that love story, and you absolutely will. You just have to truly, truly believe in it, and it'll appear, and it'll be better than you ever thought.
You know what it is? I think that this society that we're in and like the world that we live in is just so cynical. I think it's so like beaten down and cynical. And I think that when you actually remember your magic, it's hard to not see the beauty, like the way that you see it. And maybe, you know, as Erica's talking, it's like, oh, well, that's good for you, right? Like I want to meet you guys. I want to meet you where you're at right now, because if you're sitting there with this skepticism, this massive skepticism about what is possible for your life, we are both here to tell you that what is it that you want? Maybe you're so afraid to even admit to yourself what you want because you're afraid to even go for it, or afraid to lose it, get it and lose it, or afraid that it wouldn't come true. And I want to tell you that anything is possible, truly. Like this is coming from two people who lived that life for a little bit, you know, where you're in this like the humdrum and like all the things in life. Like Erica works in corporate America, I worked in corporate America. I'm sure in relationships, friendships, etc., that didn't really serve and kind of felt like you maybe were stuck or whatever it is. The thing is, you choose to stay stuck. You choose to be cynical. You're choosing that type of lifestyle. And if you choose that lifestyle, understand that that's a lifestyle you're going to see. Like, if you don't start making the changes like this, like romanticizing your life in some way, like seeing the beauty in life, seeing what could be, you will stay stuck in that. You will. And you'll keep getting evidence to show you that life isn't the way that Erica is describing it. You're going to see that.
Right. And I think it's so important to ask yourself, why don't you believe it's possible for you? Like, who told you it's not possible for you? Where did that come from? So it's something I always did, because I'm sharing I had the most magical love story, but before that, love was such a struggle for me. Like in my teens, my early 20s, I never had like a real true relationship last long enough to get there. Like it was always like I would, people would come and go into my life, but no one ever stayed, and it always felt wrong. Like, okay, is there something wrong with me? What's happening? And then it was because I had to really get serious about what were my limiting beliefs in love. What did I believe was impossible? And then when I dug deep and I did that kind of shadow work, I realized that I had multiple beliefs. I believed that I was always the single girl. I was never the girl with the boyfriend. Or I believed that boys just, especially like in college, boys just want to hook up. They don't want to be serious. And then I also realized I had the belief that I should be a strong, independent woman and be career focused. I shouldn't worry about love. That's anti-feminist of me to worry about love. But then I realized no, that's ridiculous. There's so many strong women who are independent, but they also have a great love, and that love doesn't take value from them. It makes them stronger. And same thing, I realized that when I realized like, oh, boys at this age don't want relationships, it's because then I looked around and I saw friends who were in relationships, or I saw like my sister who had a relationship at that age, and I was like, wait, there are like boys at that age who do want relationships, they're serious. Like, so if it's possible for them, why is it not possible for me? So when I really rewrote my limiting beliefs and I started telling myself a new story, and recognized that I had been telling myself the story on repeat. I also used to tell myself, there's no one good out there. I never meet anyone good. And when you say, I never do this, I never meet anyone good, that's what you receive. That's the energy you put out that comes back to you. So I really cut that out of my vocabulary, and I kept believing, oh, I meet good people everywhere. It's so easy to find people to date, things like that. And when I really actively chose to shift that, that's when the magic and this whole romanticized story actually started to happen. So sometimes you need to kind of be honest with yourself and see how you've been blocking yourself, and try to get out of your own way to rewrite your most romanticized story.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is like the thing that we always do at Spirit and Soul. It's like, here is manifesting, here is something, and then understand that there is healing that goes along with it. Like, you can't have one without the other.
Yes.
So you may need healing around your story. You may need healing around what it is that you think is possible for you. Because if you think what is possible for you is, a life where you're just going about your day and it's on, you feel like you're on a hamster wheel, you feel like your life is on repeat, you're just doing the same thing, you don't feel excited by anything, you don't feel excited by love, you don't feel excited about your job, you don't feel excited about your life in general. If that's the life that you think that everybody lives, I hate that, actually.
Yeah, me too.
I hate that. Because
so many people do, though. Yeah. They believe that.
Yeah, like if you just sit back for a moment and just say, well, other people may live that life, but that's not a life for me. This is something I say all the time. I'll actually say this to my husband sometimes. He's like, well, everybody does this. I'm like, I don't want a life like everybody.
Yeah.
Sorry. Like, that's not for me. And he's like, okay, all right, I see you. And like, all of a sudden it shifts, because he's been on this journey with me for a while, that he starts to shift. But if you think that because that's what you see, that everybody lives life like this, so I have to live life like this, that's the story you're writing for yourself. And you have every ability to pick up that pen and paper and rewrite your story. And damn it, make it a good one.
Yes, exactly.
Romanticize it.
Yeah, like that's always how I've kind of approached my life, is like, why not me? And kind of like we were saying Wheel of Fortune, when my friend texted me, I could have ignored it, but I was like, why not me? I could win. Like, they could choose me, and they did.
And you did.
And I did win. Yeah. Or same thing, like I can have the most amazing love of my life. I could even working here. Like, I once believed like, oh, I can do the spiritual work I love as my main job. And now here I am. So you just have to believe in magic. And I think believing in magic is lots of times choosing to see the magic in the ordinary life, which is kind of romanticizing your life. Like, looking at the sunset, looking at the beautiful moon. Like, I just noticed this morning there were crocuses popping up outside of my house, like the little purple flowers. And I'm like, oh, spring's coming, flowers are coming.
Yeah.
Like, you have to notice all the beauty and that exists around you, and see that there is so much magic. Even like I always say, kindness amongst strangers is magical. Like the good news stories you hear, babies being born, all these weddings, everything is so magical. So when you could see that the world actually isn't this dark, depressing thing. There's a lot of dark, depressing things, but there's so much good too. It's balance. Everything is balance.
Yeah. I think that it's so easy to focus on those like lower vibration things, because that's where most of the people are focused. That's where most of the energy is. I mean, again, we just talked about energy and putting it into food and to drink. Do you think that doesn't go for everything?
Yeah.
If most people are focused on what is bad, then that is going to be where most of the energy is. That's going to be where it's comfortable, because everybody, even if it's uncomfortable, because most of the energy is there, and misery loves company, right? Think about it like that, right? So if you can really, really start to say, okay, I am going to look at life different. Like, life can be as beautiful as you want it to be. You are your own limiting. You're the only limiting factor in your life, and I don't care what's going on in your life. I don't care. I honestly don't. Like, I don't care. It's a money thing. It's a love thing. It's a family thing. It's a this thing. Whatever it is, if you have some type of you perceived limitation, I am here to tell you that it is exactly that. It is perceived. You can shift, adjust, change, look at life differently in order to start getting to the life that you actually want to feel. And I want to point out feel, because it has to feel good.
Yeah, that's one thing I always do, especially in manifesting, is I feel it in my heart. Because I think your words are powerful, of course, but they mean nothing if you don't feel the energy. I think that's always in movies when they're using spells and everything. Like, you have to feel it as you're casting the spell.
Absolutely. You do. And there's truth to, I feel like there's truth to so many of the stories that are out there. There's truth to everything. So if it's like you can't, they can't do a spell, which happens all the time. It's like, I can't find my magic. And it's because they didn't have the intention or the feeling behind it. Like, well, you can absolutely apply that to life.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You can say, it's funny because I just did a session for someone, and it's like, you could for spinal energetics, and she was like, oh, I feel like there's a block in my business and I can't get to the next level. And she wasn't, even though she wanted the expansion, the energy was so closed and so like protecting so hard that she couldn't let go for a long time during the session. And then all of a sudden it unfolded, and it came from the heart and from like really like the creation area, our sacral chakra. It came from there of like, once it allowed to open up, then the body started to open. It started to get more free. And when I explained it to her after, she started getting upset, and she's like, oh my God, you're right. Like, I'm just in my own way.
Yeah.
And that's what it came down to. Once you get yourself out of the way and start to really truly allow for it to open up, that heart space opens, you can start to feel it.
Yeah. Sometimes I like to pretend too that it's like, oh, I'm in my own personal like matrix. We are the co-creators of our reality with the universe. I say co-creator because, life happens, like literally the actual wheel of fortune. Like, sometimes you hit bankrupts, and that's okay. That's just part of life. It's going to happen. No one's going to go through life without anything bad happening. It's a cycle. We have good, we have bad, but when it comes to creating more of the good, I like to pretend that like, okay, this is my world, I'm in charge. Like, sometimes you could even pretend your mind like everyone else is a simulation, so I'm in control.
Yeah.
I'm controlling this. I'm making this magic happen.
I love that so much. And these little things, like we started talking about, the little things like creating these moments throughout your day continuously will bring you back to the life that you actually want. And then what happens is it starts to unfold the more you believe it. But you have to believe it.
Yeah.
You have to believe that this type of life is available for you. And it starts with you doing little things like this.
Yeah. And I think one other example of romanticizing your life that I didn't mention before was, I think, getting like dressed up too. Like making yourself wear your prettiest outfit, look really cute, or like even if you're just around the house, like wearing like a fancy like ball gown. Like, I do that, and it's so fun. And just pretend like, oh, I'm a princess, and that really helps you get in that dreamy energy, and that helps you manifest more dreamy energy in.
I love that so much. I actually do that a lot too. Like I always say, I tell the story of when we were opening, before Spirit and Soul was even a thought, like the physical version of it. We had a virtual thing going, and I would dress up as if I was like this one outfit, because it was during COVID, so it wasn't like getting crazy with dressing up, but I would wear these certain pants and this certain sweater, and I would say every time I wore it that it was my inventory outfit. That I would wear it when I was doing inventory. So the first day that we had the physical location and we had to go in and do inventory in the shop and put things out, you better believe I wore my inventory outfit.
I love that. I just remembered I actually did that too, and I didn't realize that in my love life. When I was in college and I was practicing my manifestation, I had known about it for like a year at this point. I called in some pretty cool things, but as a 20-year-old girl, I wanted love. And I went to a store. I think I went to the American Eagle in Union Square, and I bought a dress. And I was like, this is my first date dress for my first date with my true love. And it was this really pretty cute blue dress. It was like summery. And so I bought it. I kept it in my closet. I was saving it. And then throughout college, I feel like either I didn't have a love interest or I went on like a date and it was in winter, so it wasn't the right time to wear it. Completely forgot about it. All those years later, when I was 26, almost 27, so this is probably close to a decade later, when I was going out with Justin for the first time, when we went to the Shakespeare play that got rained out, that we consider our first date, I picked out that dress to wear because I was like, oh, I've never worn this. And then after the fact, I realized that was the dress I bought with the intention of my first date dress with my true love. And I didn't realize it till after the fact. I was like, wait, this is the dress. So that was another way to manifest. Absolutely. By buying the outfit for the day. So my 20-year-old self did buy it for later Erica.
I love that story so much. I'm like, you didn't recognize it at the time. You were just like, oh, I've never worn this before.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this has been in my closet for so long. And then I forget, my memory somehow was jogged. And I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, that is something I think dressing the part makes a big difference.
It does.
Big difference. Like, sometimes I'll wear, like when I'm getting, like I need to get down to business, I need to do certain things, I will wear my blazer. Like I'm like, all right, I have things that I need to do like at the shop or like behind the scenes at the shop, like doing like, computer work or things like that. And when I really need to get focused on like financials, like things like that, I'm like blazer on, Yes. But it's dressing the part that feels a little bit more businessy. It feels a little bit more, like that corporate style energy. And so I will wear those things. I actually just bought like a couple of them because I'm like, I need to like do more behind the scenes stuff and like really get like, not corporate with it, but that feeling.
Yeah, the powerful. I love that. And actually that reminds me of on Wheel of Fortune, because when I went on, it was Star Wars week, so we were allowed to dress Star Warsy. And I wore this dress that I love that's like a Darth Vader inspired dress. And it had the coolest cape. It had a black cape. And so I felt so powerful. I felt like I was like, oh, I'm the good version of Darth Vader. I'm when he's Anakin. Because I had this really cool cape. So I felt like I was like, oh, I'm powerful, I'm magical.
I love it. So, but if you just threw that outfit on, you probably wouldn't have felt as powerful.
No,
right?
Probably not.
And it's like, if I didn't wear the things that I wear, like I do this all the time. Like, all right, how do I want to feel today? Like, what am I embodying today? And that's kind of what I will do every time I put something on. Like, interestingly enough, okay, I put this on today. It's all black. I'm a little bit in mourning today. I had this a year since my grandma passed, and I didn't actually realize it at the time. But now I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, oh, like now it's like happening on its own, where it's like, okay, like these are, this is how we play into it, and this is how I'm feeling, and allow myself to go there. Now, obviously, this is, it's a mourning thing or a grieving thing or whatever, but my wardrobe and my outfits now are so intentional that it's going with like it's like one it's like we're one, you know what I mean? It's like the energy behind it. So where I put this on, okay, this is how I'm feeling today, and I do want to remain in this today as like, just because I feel that way today, right? But then tomorrow I'm gonna wake up, actually for the live sale tonight, I'm gonna be feeling a lot different. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna be feeling a lot different. I'm gonna be feeling more peppy. I bet you I wear something a little more colorful. These are the things that we're gonna lean into your energy. And again, they're little things, but are they?
I always ask spirit, like, what color do I feel like today? Or I ask, what color should I wear today? And that will always be like an added message of like what I need. Like, oh, am I guided to wear red? It's like I need more confidence today, or to embody more love and romanticism that day. Or am I called to wear green? Do I need to be more earthy and grounded or receive more healing, like that? And lots of times, actually, whatever color I wear, if it's a day that I'm coming here to do a reading, it's always the color that that person winds up needing. Like somebody I read that day, like one day I felt called to wear yellow, and someone came in and their whole thing was like solar plexus chakra. They needed to learn to trust, and I was like, oh, that's why I was guided to wear yellow.
And they were guided to trust, and who's there? Mm-hmm. The person that's guiding them, and the person that's wearing yellow. Like it's amazing how it all works out.
It is. I love it. It's fun, especially when I feel like working with spirit is also romanticizing your life, because it's like, oh, I have a fairy godmother with me helping me.
Yeah, but do you see how Erica does what she does? Like she does it so well. Like she's like, I feel like I have a fairy godmother with me. I feel like I have this. That is so playful and fun, and she's allowing herself to just go there, to be in that imagination that's actually not imaginary. Like it is truth.
Yeah.
We choose, a lot of times you choose not to see it. But when you start to see these things, life can feel magical and romantic and fun and flowy and like a dream.
Yeah.
Dreamy.
It's so true. And even when I'm watching like TV shows or movies, I feel like I'm always looking for like the greater lesson in it too.
Me too.
So yeah, when you watch these things, that also helps you realize like, oh, look, it mirrors real life. So if that story is magical, why can't my own life be just as magical too?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So how can you start to romanticize your life right now? Like you don't have to wait for tomorrow. Right now. Like what is one thing you can do? So if you're driving, listening to this podcast, when you're done listening to it, can you think about where you wanted to go on vacation and be driving there? Or maybe you're driving to your dream job. Or maybe you're driving where? I don't know.
Yeah, you know what I also would like to do? Like when I say I like really wanted a vacation to like the Caribbean or somewhere, you can pretend to visualize, but then play like Bob Marley or, play the music and play like some steel drum covers of things. Like that really helps you feel into it as well.
Now you're bringing in all the senses, all the things.
I love it. If you want to go to Italy, play like, some Andrea Bocelli, play along. If you want to go to London, play some Spice Girls. Like really use music to romanticize that as well and feel the feelings of being there.
So fun. But let it be fun. Like have fun with it.
Yeah, that's what life is supposed to be fun. Like why did you come here to take life so seriously? Like I always say, did you really think you came here to be miserable, to hate your job, to pay bills, to complain about all the people? Like, no, you came here to have fun, to enjoy life, to experience being a human. And yeah, that has ups and downs, but why not try to create as many ups as you can? Because you can absolutely make those ups happen.
Absolutely. And if you are having a down moment, instead of looking at it as a down moment, let's start looking at it as, okay, what am I meant to learn here? Okay, how is this meant to help me grow? That's how I start looking at things too. Maybe that is romanticizing as well, but I'm not glossing over the things ever. Like I'm always looking at them and saying, okay, how is this for me?
Right.
How is this for my growth? How is this for me? And then once you start to see it like that, it almost doesn't hit as hard, because you're like, okay, well, let me try to figure out why this is happening here, rather than just be like, oh, why, what me, it's like, you start looking at it differently.
Definitely. I do the same. And I always think too, like we're talking about every fairy tale character, every movie character, they all have those moments where they think everything's over, where they think they lost, where they think their villain won, where their dream's not going to come true. And then what happens? They find some way to regain hope, to regain courage, to power through, and to make their dreams actually happen and have their happily ever after. So like the same is true for you.
And it doesn't just happen in the movies.
Yes, it's real. Movies are real life.
Yes.
There's a reason. Think about it. Humans are writing these stories. So if it came from a human, it can also become a human's reality.
Obsessed.
Yes.
Obsessed with it. All right, guys. So we want to hear from you. What are you starting to romanticize in your life? We want to hear you. We want to cheer you on with this. So make sure that you reach out to us on Instagram at Spirit and Soul Studio. Let us know what it is that you are romanticizing in your life. And then we want you to tell us how it actually started to come true. Maybe how things started to shift in your life. I love to hear your stories when you respond about, to these things on the podcast, when you say like, this is what I was manifesting. I listened to the podcast and this is what I'm doing, and love seeing those things. So tell us all the things. We want to cheer you on. And Erica, thank you so much for being a guest on
Thank
the
you
Spirit
for
and Soul
having
podcast.
me.
I love having you.
Yeah, this was such a fun conversation.
And how can everybody follow you on Instagram?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at La Rose de Rêve. See, romanticized French name. It's like LAROSEDESREVES, which actually means the Rose of Dreams in French. So it's very romantic.
Awesome. So make sure that you are following Erica. Make sure that you book a session with her.
Yes.
You can book readings with her, healings, all the things.
Past lives, those are going to be really fun.
Past live readings, those are amazing. So make sure that you sign up for something incredible with her, and also for manifesting coaching, because obviously, she knows what she's talking about, okay?
Created a lot of cool things. I didn't even explain nearly even like 1/100th of the cool things I've manifested.
Yes, I know. So thank you guys so much for joining us on this episode of the Spirit and Soul podcast, and I will see you next time.
Bye.